Let's talk about the fourth essay coming up for you. It's called an evaluation. Pretty simple. All of us argue about a best movie or worst movie, a good TV show, bad TV show, rock concert, or whatever. So that's what you're going to be doing here. You're going to be doing an evaluation. But it's not that simple just to say, hey, I like the movie. Let's walk through what's on page 63 for just a few minutes. I said we evaluate lots of things. Basically, it comes down to you may do a functional evaluation, an aesthetic evaluation, or some kind of combination of the two. So functional evaluation, think about the way things work, like your car, your cell phone, something that you have around the house that you work on all the time. Maybe it's a treadmill, something like that. So that would be a functional evaluation. How well does this thing function? How well does it work? Maybe you're going to do an aesthetic evaluation. That's something that appeals to the artistic, creative qualities that we have. So something like a television show, that's aesthetics. That's the laugh that's generated. It's the characters you care about. It's the plot that makes you nervous, wondering what's going to happen next. That's all aesthetics. Now, you could have a combination of the two. So take, for example, a video game. Is there a functionality to a video game? Sure, you bet. How easy is it to work in that world that you're in? How many times can you go back and start over if you die during your adventure and all? So there is a functional part to it. How well does that game work? But there's also the aesthetics, right? How well did they get that world? Does that look really good? Can you see the sun glinting on the water? Can you see shadows of things? So that's kind of a combination, but be thinking about that, a functional evaluation or an aesthetic evaluation. And I give you some examples here, something like a car, a job, a person, a television show, a documentary video. I mean, there's so many things that you can choose. Let's go to the second paragraph because this is crucial. Whatever it is that you're evaluating, you have to set up what's called a criteria, which is a list of the, how do we put it here, the ways that you're going to evaluate it. What are the standards that you're going to use? So let me give you an example of a bad standard, and we'll give you an example of a good standard. So you talk to a friend says, hey, I just read this book. Then you say, what'd you think? And the friend says, I wasn't really crazy about it. You say, oh, really? Why not? And you say, well, it had a blue cover on the front. What? What kind of reason is that to not like a book? Or it was a little heavy. Well, that's not how you measure good books or bad books. So you want to have criteria that works for whatever this thing is that you're going to be evaluating. So an example, we're talking about a book. How do you evaluate a book? Well, let's just do two or three because I want you to think of the others on your own. But you might evaluate it for characters. You might evaluate it for plot, the things that happen. You might evaluate it by setting. Where does it take place? So you always have to have a set of guidelines. How good or how bad is this going to be? So it's a standard that you're putting in. I said, make sure, at the end of the second paragraph, make sure your standards are useful and appropriate. They've got to be appropriate. So for a movie, you don't judge the movie on how long it is. If you say, well, it was 2 hours and 20 minutes. Well, a lot of movies are 2 hours and 20 minutes. You got to come up with different standards than that. Let's go down to the third paragraph. This is all about what's called ethical appeal. So ethical appeal is just a fancy way of saying, how do you strike the reader as the reader is going through your material? How do you come across? Do you come across as somebody who knows what he or she is talking about? So I'll give you an example. If I was to evaluate a novel, I would feel pretty confident because I've read a lot, and especially if it's in an area like science fiction or history or something like that, I would feel very comfortable doing a book review. But turn me loose in an art gallery and tell me to go look at 3 or 4 or 5 paintings that are on the wall, I'm lost. I don't know art that well. I'd look at it and say, well, I like it or I don't like it, but I wouldn't really have a good set of standards. So it's going to be crucial when whatever it is you pick, make sure you come across as the expert. So maybe if you're going to evaluate a car, Why should we trust you? If you're going to evaluate a television show, why should we believe what you say about that television show? So you've got to keep, I always call it flashing your badge. Like if somebody comes to your door and you look through and you say, who is it? And they say, it's a highway patrol. You're going to say, can I see some proof? And they'll flash the badge. So you don't let them in. You don't even talk to them unless somebody can show you their credentials. So the same thing here. Make sure you show the reader your credentials. Why are you taking on this topic? What is it that you know? Have you experienced something in that field? If it's a television show, have you watched all 5 seasons of it? If it's something like a music genre, do you collect music in that genre? Do you play your own instrument in that genre? So we've got to trust you. So that's hugely important.